So here we are, we're at the end of this book, and now I want to talk about making the things that we discussed from chapters 1 through 9, how to make those things stick, especially in this competitive environment that we're in. What do we do to make sure that ethics has a high priority and that people are following not just the laws, but they're doing the things that are right in the company? So this is where we're gonna kind of drive home today those things that will ensure that you as a leader, leadership ethics, you as a leader, the company that you lead, and the people that work with you in that company, that they maintain the highest standards of ethical behavior, and that they do the right thing, that the shareholders, the people that are affected by the organization, that they too will do what's right. And that it's not just about, okay, I'll do what's right when people are watching. So let's move on, and we're going to talk about some of the key components to the ethics policy. There are characteristics of a market. Those characteristics include such things as the demands of the market. That means the demands of the customers in the market, the impatient stockholders, the aggressive vendors, the statutes that are driven by federal, state, and local officials, that demanding creditors, aggressive competition. Those are some of the key components, but we're going to talk about how those key components and how to sustain ethics within your organization, how to make sure that this is a persistent behavior, ethical behavior is persistent long after the latest public scandal or the latest management buzzword. There's stages in making ethics sustainable within your organization. As you know, I have you going out and looking at a major corporation and talking to a compliance officer or vice president or someone in a senior leadership position that is responsible for ethics and compliance within the organization that you're going to be interviewing. So one of the things that can ensure that there's sustainable ethical behavior is to establish a code of ethics. Some companies have a code of ethics already a part of the company, then others do not, and they determine after there's been some major upset that they need to have one. So you need to have some type of code of ethics that's drafted. And this code of ethics should also have extensive training that's done with the employees that are part of the organization. With the code of ethics, and if you're serious about having sustainable ethical behavior, lots of government organizations and even some civilian ones, public organizations, have actually hired an ethics officer. The ethics officer, they are there to ensure that there is compliance. Some of the other ways that you can sustain ethical behavior is by celebrating and awarding ethical behavior that's demonstrated by the people that work in the organization. You can promote your organization's commitment to ethical behavior by holding some type of special awards day or some type of external celebration, and you can continue to monitor the behavior as you grow. If you just put a program in place and there's never any monitoring or any type of follow-up, you don't know if it's working or not. So you want to, as the company starts to expand, you want to make sure that you're monitoring what's happening. So let's talk about establishing a code of ethics. It should be well written. It should be something that captures the organization's understanding of what ethical behavior is, and it establishes the detailed guidelines that's acceptable, what types of behaviors that will be acceptable within the organization. Those policies that are in your code of ethics, it should capture the behavior of specific situations, talk about it, and then document punishments for violations of those policies. they don't do you any good if people feel like, okay, so they're there, they're written, but there's never any type of accountability for it. There's a recommendation that's been given by the Institute of Business Ethics in creating an ethical code. They recommend that you find a champion, and I've always said that too. It needs to be somebody that's senior within the organization. And in fact, it would be great if it was the chairman or the CEO, the chairman of the board, or somebody that would champion this new code of ethics. And you can also look to see what others are bothered by, but also make sure that you look at models that are out there that can help you establish your code of ethics. So you produce your company code of ethics, you try it out, you make sure that you train people, you make sure that everybody knows that it is a part of your culture and it is a part of what you all hold dear. Same as your mission statement, your vision statement, or your values, your value proposition. But the only way you're going to make it work is to make sure that you put it together first, test it out, do training, do follow up, and then just work it. Don't leave it sitting in the corner. Now, you need to get support for extensive training. Each department of the organization should apply the code to examples that could arise in their respective departments. So they need to be able to recognize something that could be a possible ethical issue within their department. They need to discuss the options of appropriate type of responses, and they need to select the best option for the situation in their department. The ethics officer, I've already said to you, that's a senior person. And so because it's a senior person, that person's going to be responsible for monitoring the actions, the behavior of those that are within the organizations. They monitor internally and externally too. And they're there to enforce the code of ethics, and they'll provide any type of support that employees may need when they witness unethical behavior. So by putting that position in place, we found that it sends a strong message to people that you're not going to tolerate unethical behavior. And it sends a clear message to all of the stakeholders, whether those stakeholders are external or whether they're stakeholders that are employees working internal in the organization. When managers and supervisors, when you as the leader don't know what to do, and people that have these officers within our companies, they use them as a sounding board to provide them with information as to what they need to do when they face something that they're not real sure of. To encourage ethical behavior, I've already said this. One, celebrate when people have done something that shows good ethical behavior. Award prizes for ethical behavior. Award some type of prize for new and creative ideas into how to maintain or sustain a culture that's highly ethical. Recognize employees that have done the right thing. And you can declare something called an ethics day. You see ethics days sometimes in organizations where people are allowing employees or every department to tell a story about something, some type of ethical issue that occurred within their department and how they handled it. Offer a no question asked refund if you're working with customers that are trying to return something, they weren't pleased with something. And you think about Amazon, they're real good about it. And even a lot of other companies out there. Well, I can tell you for me that if a company does not want to honor a refund, or I have to keep something that I was dissatisfied with because it didn't offer the quality that I felt I was getting for what I was buying, what I was putting my money into, I would expect that the company would honor that and refund me without any questions. Some companies do that very well, and those are the companies I go back to. One of the things in your book it says is for you to offer a 110% price match guarantee. So even if, your company and another company sell the item for the exact same price because you're so sure about your product and you stand behind it. Offer them 110% price match. So you already know they're buying it at another company, or they can see it at another company for the same price. But what is it that you just offering them something a little extra because you so believe in your product and its ability to meet their needs, and you believe that it's a quality product? Promote ethical commitment, to the behavior of the people within the organization by getting your clients involved in the development of your ethics policy. Let employees visit clients on their sites and talk about the code of ethics in person, and share any type of success stories with the shareholders or those stakeholders that are a part of your organization, and invite them to the ethics day also. With all things, those things that we don't monitor, those things that we don't follow up on, we don't evaluate, you can expect that there'll be cracks and things go wrong. So any organization that is committed to ethical performance, they got to watch it constantly. People change. You have new leaders. You have new employees. So your company won't stay static. It's going to change. Hopefully, it's going to grow. And as your company grows and expands, you are now dealing with, just a bigger audience and more. There's a possibility of more ethical issues. So there needs to be continuous training. There needs to be continued growth of technology. With that continued growth of technology, you already know that new situations will offer opportunity for ethical dilemmas. So your code may have to be rewritten. You see that in a day and time like today because of the advances in internet, social media. We've kind of talked about that already. So either you can be a reactive organization or you could be a proactive organization. The reactive organization, they result when organizations are driven by some type of event, a scandal possibly, and then they're driven by fear of future events. So then again, here we are, they're only doing this because they're fearful that something has happened or is going to happen. So then then they'll try to put something in place. The best way to be is to be proactive organization. And proactive means that your company develops a clear sense of what they stand for as an ethical organization. And one way of doing that is to make sure that there's transparency. Transparency in your processes, transparency in the work that you do, transparency in everything. So an organization that will maintain open and honest communications with all of their stakeholders, they're considered transparent and honest, and thus they build trust with others. So this leads to the conclusion, when you're transparent, that you're also trustworthy. It leads to the conclusion that you have organizational integrity. And that's a characteristic of publicly committing to the highest professional standards and sticking to that commitment. It is vital as you're building trust and confidence of the stakeholders for the long term. That concludes chapter 10 of your book, Making It Stick, Doing What's Right at a Competitive Market. I'm going to have some other opportunities to chat with you via Twitter and via online in our online threaded discussions. I want more than anything is that as a leader, you understand that you set the tone of the organization. That's why I talk so much about high emotional intelligence too. Emotional intelligence talks about the sensibilities that leader will have to the people and their stakeholders. And so you need to be aware of how you can train and develop people, but make sure as the leader you're setting the tone of integrity, trust, honesty, and goodwill with all those that do business with you. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you shortly over in another section. of leadership ethics.